Welcome back. For this video, I want to talk about metabolizing loss, restoring ourselves to great love, restoring ourselves to the power of the present moment by trusting ourselves to metabolize loss. Loss is so common. Little micro losses, every exhale is a sort of a loss. We only have so many breaths in each lifetime, so there's a little bit of a loss. Time, as it cascades by, is a bit of a loss. And then there are some of the losses that for many of us seem looming and larger. The loss of a parent, the loss of a child, the loss of a beloved pet, having to move out of a favorite home, having to make new friends in a big move for work or school. So loss is a normal part of life. Even here in the Northern Hemisphere, where we are in autumn is in full swing, the days are getting shorter. And those of us, myself included, who are sun worshipers, feel the loss of the hours of daylight. So we want to learn to be elegant and loving and self-nourishing around metabolizing loss. And we don't want to let the losses pile up, because they will pile up like trauma in the nervous system that colors our perspective on everything and radically shapes what we can attract and what we repel. When we don't metabolize loss, when we don't properly grieve, we suppress it. And suppressed grief can become anger, rage, and depression. So there's all the good reasons, so many good reasons to learn to metabolize loss. And one of the main ways I've learned to metabolize loss is by focusing on love in the present moment. This week of this recording, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of my mom dying from cancer after a 12-year battle with carcinoid cancer. You could say she was the love of my life. Yeah, we had the normal parent-child struggles that a lot of parents and children have. You try raising a little boy who can hear thoughts and feel everything. Capricorn, nonetheless. That would be me, in case you're not clear. I miss her every day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't want to hear her voice and talk to her and hug her and laugh with her and have adventures with her. 6 months later, my dad, given his long-term religious predilection as a born-again Christian and me being a gay son, was re-triggered by that fact in himself and has cut off all communication 6 months after my mom died. They weren't together, by the way, since I was 7. So those were 2 major losses, mom and dad, my goodness. How do I metabolize it? Well, let me share a little story. So shortly after my mom passed away, I was sitting here feeling an ache physically. And those of you who've had big losses to somebody passing away, you know the physical ache I'm talking about. It can come unexpectedly at any given moment. And the ache brought me, as it does for most of us until we have another option, into memory. Memories that I'd missed, and I was starting to feel sad and tear up, and my chest was starting to cave in a little bit. And all at once, grace moved in my insight and said, focus on how much you love her as a real-time now phenomena. Stop looking over your shoulder at the memories you had as bad because they can't happen again. Appreciate, celebrate the great memories, use the great memories to invoke the presence of love now in your heart, in your chest, and actively love your mother now and let her actively love you now. Because you know, Scott, the first law of thermodynamics is energy is never ever destroyed. It just changes forms. And as I began to drop into this practice, as I began to feel my heart open, as I began to feel my chest expand again, as I began to feel my spine lengthen and the breath move, it felt like my mom was in the room with me in the most loving way possible. And so it became my practice, including with my father, including with any other losses, to focus on the love of the present moment and then let myself feel any contractions, grittiness in the space of that love. You can't expect yourself to process old stuck energies without moving into an energy-rich place. It's just literally like moving the dust around on the furniture without removing it, or rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. There's still a hole in the ship, it's still going down. So we want to move ourselves towards an energy-rich state and use this on the regular to metabolize. It's so important that we're nourishing ourselves on the regular. Take a deep breath and let go on the exhale. Inhale deep. Exhale long. Now, depending on the loss and how the loss happened, we may need the support of skillful, trained others, maybe even more than one. Could be a somatically based therapist, could be a facilitator like myself, could be working with some form of breath, and also about breath. No one breath pattern, and there are well over 500 in the tradition, no one breath pattern is the end-all be-all for all circumstances and all things. Many of you have come to know about me and my work through what I call ecstatic breath work, a 3-part active rhythmic breath done through the mouth, laying down usually to evocative music. That's not for all times and all places and all people. It's okay to use other breaths, to know ourselves well enough to know which tools to select and when and for how long. Sometimes the ecstatic breath work will be too enervating, too exciting to the nervous system that actually needs a different sort of soothing. So we can work with the grounding breath. Inhale deeply into the lowest part of the belly. Hold the breath, melt the shoulders away from the ears. Like 100 times slower than you can imagine, exhale really slowly down the centers of your legs, out the soles of your feet, and into the earth with your imagination, like 100 times slower than you can imagine. And in just one breath that way, let alone 2 or 10, you're going to feel yourself softening and grounding. And pairing this with softening the body, whether you do a body scan or my 6 points of softening. 6 points of softening is soften the soles of your feet like you're opening fists with your mind. Do the same thing with the palms of your hands and the 4 corners of your eyes and the region inside and around your ears and your tongue as it rests deeply in the floor of your mouth and all the muscles of the pelvic floor groin region. Soles, palms, eyes, ears, tongue, pelvic floor groin region. Beautiful. When we're getting overwhelmed, we're probably not practicing the practices often enough. Invariably, when somebody comes to me in a lot of distress and I ask, are you meditating? Well, here and there, or I haven't in a while, or I used to. So the advice is return to your meditation practice. Or if you didn't ever have one, begin one. Start with 5 minutes. I would say start with 20. It's really not as hard as you might think. If you're working with the 6 points of softening and long, slow exhales, and you can use any of the guided practices on my website or on my YouTube channel. Within 7 days of regular sitting, you're going to feel different. You're going to feel different. And you're going to have greater insight and clarity over time about what you do need, whether that's a session with somebody or a particular practice or to go out in nature and spend some time. Maybe you camp for a weekend and do practices during the camping. Go to the ocean. But you'll know, you're more likely to know. When we're not practicing, we're more dependent on our own thought structure, which is going to be coming from the unprocessed stuff in the ego and the nervous system if we're not practicing. You know, how many days would you go without brushing your teeth or showering? I hope not more than one. So daily inner hygiene practices are going to help us to metabolize loss and tune into the truth of the present moment, which is love. All the love, all the grace are here, even when we've experienced loss. There's no lessening of love or grace or joy. It's just our attention and nervous system has been pointed on something else. So Lastly, if you have some really skillful practices you've used to help you alchemize, transform, and uplift yourself after a major loss, you can share those in the comments below as collective wisdom. You can share your questions as well. And if you're called to do some one-on-one work with me, explore the private sessions section of my website first. Read under the words, feel under the words, and feel into it. You'll know. Your intuition will guide you. Enjoy yourself. I love you. You have no vote in the matter. Grace is real. Grace makes the impossible possible with our skillful self-effort. Enjoy yourself. I'll see you soon.